This episode of The Majority Report is brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors, Sunset Lake Seder. SunsetLakeSeder.com. You can use code LEFTISBEST for 20% off. Sunset Lake has all sorts of amazing Seder products, like tinctures with melatonin. They have gummy bears, smokables, fudge, coffee, hand lotion, salve with arnica. And not only that, you can be sure of the integrity of these products. They have third-party analysis of their Seder on their website.
They send you a dossier. At least they send me it.
Yeah, no, I get one too. It really is. Like, I look through it and
I feel like I stumbled on some trade secrets.
Exactly. They also have great agricultural practices. They practice regenerative farming in conjunction with the University of Vermont so that they're taking care of the soil. They use integrated pest management so they don't have to use any pesticides. They use 100% organic fertilizer. It's a great product. They're also a great business in terms of their business practices, $15 minimum wage, mostly employee-owned company, and they're movement partners. They support strikers at the hospital in St. Vincent's nurses in Worcester. They contribute to organizations in and around Burlington, Vermont, where they're from. They also helped us out big time with the Afghan refugee money that we raised, over $30,000 for 3 separate organizations. On top of which, we're planning another fundraiser with them in the coming weeks. Just a fantastic operation. And also, did I mention the smokables, the Smalls, the Keef?
Smalls and Keef.
Make for great gifts. And also, I mean, it's been a huge boon to my sleeping. And occasionally, when the kids get a little bit much, sometimes I'll lean on a little tincture or,
go nuts.
Or a gummy bear. I'm not kidding.
Those gummy bears taste amazing.
Yes, you got to be careful with those.
Yes.
And the fudge. That's a real problem for me because I have my sweet tooth. I got to stay away from stuff like that, or I'm going to be in a vegetative state by the end of eat the entire fudge. Folks, check it out. SunsetLakeSeder.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST. One word. They wanted to use that. Longtime fans of the show for 20% off. And speaking of the show, let's start it now.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, November 5th, 2021. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, staff writer at the New Republic, operator of the AP Substack, and also co-host of the Politics of Everything podcast. Alex Pareene will be joining us. Then, later in the program, proprietor of the Matthew Film Guy box. What is that called? Box? Where he puts the films? Box? Something?
Letterbox?
Letterbox? And also the Langdon Boom eBay sales store. Matthew Film Guy will be here with us. Meanwhile, I just got a comment about my exposed neck. House is attempting to vote on the bipartisan and the reconciliation bills as we speak. No word as to whether that's actually going to happen. Meanwhile, the tax portion of that bill, the reconciliation bill, amended to protect millionaire and billionaire tax scams.
Of course.
Replaced with a higher nicotine tax.
Oh, we are in 1972.
The Biden administration considers vaccine mandates for companies with less than 100 employees in the wake of getting more specific on the requirements for companies with over 100 employees. Meanwhile, Republican governors look to sue the administration in a hope to prolong the pandemic. Preliminary results on a Pfizer anti-COVID pill show that if taken within 3 days of diagnoses, it reduces hospitalization by 90%. New York cabbies end their hunger strike and have won debt forgiveness on their medallions. Meanwhile, national job numbers top 530,000, well above expectations. In addition, we've seen upward revisements on job numbers over the past 3 or 4 months. Lastly, Carper, the most recent senator to I should say the latest filibuster holdout to endorse a workaround for voting rights. Stay tuned. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is Casual Friday, and as Judy Ruliani has said on the IM, I have an uncovered neck. I am
Second
Emma Vigeland.
Casual Friday in a row.
It's the second. It was like the first thing you said to me today.
I was just shocked. I mean, the neck, it's just so there.
Yeah.
It's right in front of me.
Yep. We've seen the Majority Report data analysis crew got back to me after last week and said that we had a like a 2.7% rise in viewership.
Oh, because
when it became clear that I was not wearing a soft collared collar, but rather no collar. That 5% more flesh actually increased our ratings significantly. So,
well, soon, we're gonna do V-neck, then deep V-neck.
Yep.
Then return to a tank top only show.
That's right. We'll be fully tank topped.
And that'll be a sight to behold in wintertime.
Yep. You know what the problem is? Is just my soft collared shirts, like I only have one, and I got to get a new one. And
What's it getting?
It's just getting old. Like it's starting to fray. And
okay. I
thought
we were gonna hear something about a smell, but
no, I washed them.
Yeah, allegedly.
No, I'm pretty good about that. My son has a different problem though. He doesn't. Never mind.
Okay.
This Pfizer anti-COVID pill is interesting. There are a couple more of these. I mean, we've heard of other things that have been helpful. Fluvoxamine, I think, has been something that has been treated, and Merck supposedly had an
antiviral pill.
An antiviral pill. This one, they literally had to stop the test because it was unethical to give people in the test a placebo. Apparently, when you have a test for a drug and the drug is working that well within the context of a test, it becomes unethical to continue the test and provide placebo. This is what the now before you get too carried away with this, this is Pfizer's releasing of their own data. Now, this is the way it works. I don't know if people realize this, but the FDA just takes the data from the companies and just makes sure that they're, that the way they've done the results lines up. But I think regardless of whether it ends up being a Pfizer pill or a Merck pill, or they find some other existing medication, we are very close to what looks like the end game between the vaccinations and these type of therapies. We are very close. And the reason why this therapy is different from, let's say, monoclonal antibodies is that is, hugely expensive. And you need to be in a hospital to get them. This is something that you would take if you got diagnosed, if you took it within 3 days. And they've only had, I guess, about 700, 800 people who are in this trial. 389 people who got Paxlovid. After 3 days, within 3 days of getting diagnosed, there were 3 hospitalizations and no deaths. 385 people who got the placebo, there were 27 hospitalizations and 7 deaths. And so they had to stop the trial for those ethical considerations. They also did a study of another 1,200 patients to start taking the treatment or placebo within 5 days after symptoms. 41 patients were hospitalized or died in the placebo group, and far less in the other group. I don't have the specific numbers, but it was 85% within 5 days. And so when you combine the reduction that you would see from vaccination and then the ability to take a pill, and I think there are other pills in development, we're getting to the end game where this is simply endemic. And we are having children between 5 and 11. I already know some kids in my son's play group who already got vaccinated. They just went down to City Point down
wow.
and just walk in. So we are getting very, very close to what the end game is, which is it's endemic and we're living with it. And apparently the notion about these pills is that the assumption, or at least the understanding at this point, is that they are variant agnostic, that they're dealing with and that means that where a vaccine may have a specific ability to stop a COVID variant or a lack of an ability to stop a COVID variant, this treatment is broad enough that the variants probably wouldn't make a difference. So,
I mean, that's exciting. I'm so technology illiterate. I wouldn't understand why that would be the case, but
well, I would imagine it's just sort of like it's dealing with symptoms and what these the way that the spike proteins react. It's one thing to prevent, a certain type of intrusion, I guess, into your body. It's another to treat what the implications are once it gets there.
Right.
But this is in this reality is going to influence our conversation with or have an impact with our conversation with Pareene about what we saw this week and what the midterms are looking like, et cetera, et cetera. In the meantime, as we speak, there is an attempt, and it's unclear to me whether it's actually going to happen, but the House Democrats were planning to vote today on both the Build Back Better bill and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And it's unclear if it's going to happen, but they're attempting to do it. And meanwhile, Joe Manchin still providing all sorts of fodder for attacking him. He, like all of us, you can't just teleport to your your yacht houseboat.
Yeah.
You need to
Not
get
yet,
there in
anyway.
some fashion.
Not yet, anyway. They're working on the technology.
He does not have a helipad, folks. So he's going to get there either through public transportation or he's going to take a private vehicle. And in this instance, he took a private vehicle. It is his, what is it called? A
Maserati.
A Maserati Levant.
A Levant.
Yeah.
What makes that different than other Maseratis?
Don't want handouts, folks.
Yeah.
You don't want.
It's sort of a mix between the giant luxury sedan and an SUV. So it's really.
It's one of those Maserati SUVs I've heard
Yeah,
about.
if you want a luxury car but also want it to be a gas guzzling SUV.
Yeah, twofer.
Let's and apparently some activists, basically gave him a little send off.
They must have confused it for their Maserati. The aspect of the Maserati Levant is its great ability to back up. As you can see from that, the handling, particularly when you're reversing, very, very, very smooth. It looked it.
very smooth.
Yeah.
And you'll notice in that course, and folks, you don't try this at home. There are pillars there on the left, and that could have created some problems for the Maserati.
Joe Manchin is a professional driver.
Yep.
Yeah, and I am sure that the rear view mirror or rear view camera is crystal clear.
We're going to talk more about this with Alex, but I do not remember any of this with Joe Lieberman or with those who were sort of pumping the brakes during the ACA battle.
Like Stupak.
Yeah.
Remember Bart Stupak? Like, was he the abortion guy from
Oh,
Michigan?
yeah, but that was from Michigan. That was in the House. But it was really Backus and Lieberman and I think Evan Bayh and some of these guys who were really interfering with the better provisions of the ACA. And I just don't remember this kind of like organized activism and isolation of these guys. I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't know what kind of impact it's going to have, but at least it's.
I mean, I think it speaks to where the left is now versus where the left is then. I mean, we can get depressed about the state of the left now, and I think that's fair, but still significantly in better shape.
And just general awareness about this stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
And who the villains are.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to Alex Pareene. Folks, we got three sponsors, three other sponsors aside from our Sunset Lake buddies today. Yes. First off, 530,000 people hired. Upward revision on other numbers. We'll talk to Pareene more about this, but that means you've got gyms and nail salons and hotels and mom and pop stores and more set to go on an epic hiring spree in the coming months to meet the pent-up demand for all these services and more. Like I say, Saul and I were walking to school today. Well, he was walking to school. I was walking him to school. And we were talking about what movie we were going to watch tonight because it's Friday night's movie night. And I said, dude, once you get vaccinated, we're going back to a theater. Mm. And maybe, because apparently the Eternals came out. I don't know what that is.
Oh, that looks terrible.
The bottom line is you get a lot of businesses that are going to be reopening, and that means that millions of jobs are going to need to be filled. So where do these businesses turn to fill these roles fast? ZipRecruiter. It's like the Majority Report did. Bradley's not here today, so I can't tell that story about getting Brendan and then Bradley from that. But right now you can try it for free. ZipRecruiter.com/majority. When you post a job on ZipRecruiter, what happens is they send your job to over 100 job sites, gives you access to their network of millions of job seekers. ZipRecruiter's matching technology scans resumes, find qualified candidates for your open roles, and proactively presents them to you. You can easily review recommended candidates, invite your top choices to apply for your job. And when you invite top choices to apply for your job, you have a better chance of landing them because, let's face it, right now, labor has a little bit more power than it has in the past. So you got to impress those people. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/majority. That's ZipRecruiter.com/majority, MAJORITY, majority. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/majority. ZipRecruiter, it is the smartest way to hire. Meanwhile, scaling your business, as you know, can be very difficult, but it's also a journey of endless possibilities. And Shopify is here to help. They have tools, they have resources, and make it easy for any type of business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. Shopify powers over 1.7 million businesses from first sale to full scale. I know one of these businesses. It's called shop.majorityreportradio.com.
Oh.
Yes. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, podcasts, established businesses alike can sell everywhere and synchronize online and in-person sales and effortlessly stay informed. With Shopify, you can reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps. I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. You synchronize your online and in-person sales and gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting. More than a store, Shopify grows with you. This is possibility, and it is powered by Shopify. The thing I like about Shopify, I mean, obviously it's not our main business, the merchandise, but we come up with what a nightmare, Crowder, boom, we can just put it, it's super easy for us to operate the customer-facing interface, as I like to call it, with the on our merch thing. And this morning, I was like, I texted my sister, and I was like, dude, we should get pencils and pens.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as we get those, boom, we put it right up on the Shopify site. And now you can go to shopify.com/majority, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/majority right now. Shopify.com/majority, all lowercase. Check it out. Lastly, don't know what to give for Hanukkah's early this year. You should know. I mean, I don't know why you should know, but you're not Jewish.
No, I know.
Christmas, apparently, same time every year. That's one of the things I've found out from working with so many Gentiles.
Right.
It's same
always, time. Not the same day of the week.
Mid-20s, I think it is, in December.
Somewhere around that.
Anyways, what are you going to give your family and friends? Same old boring gift?
Hope not.
Nope. I got a new gift for you to give. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, a new one?
The Hello Tushy bidet.
I knew it.
Yep. Checks all the boxes. It's useful, but definitely unique. High-tech, but definitely affordable. Plus, eco-friendly and, frankly, life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Hello Tushy bidet cleans your butt way better than wiping, and it cuts toilet paper use down by 80%. Washes your bum with fresh water for a better clean. You just spray and pat dry. You don't need a plumber. You don't need any new electricity. Hello Tushy conveniently attaches to your toilet in under 8 minutes. The complete Tushy system turns your restroom into your best room. Got some great copywriters there. With the Tushy bidet attachment, they have ottoman, toilet brush, and Tushy stand and tissues. Join the millions of happy butts falling in love with Hello Tushy. Look, honestly, you could change someone's life with this. This is like one of those things, like, you do it, and most people do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really think about it because there's only been one way that you've been doing it your whole life. And then all of a sudden something radical happens. And
what do? You say to your loved one, hey, I think your ass is dirty. Here's what I'm going to get for you for
it's
Christmas.
like this is something, a lot of people just like the concept of doing it. I think there's a big bar to entry. And that's what makes
eliminate that bar to entry.
That's what makes this such a great gift in my estimation. It's something that most people would not think to get them themselves. It is also not nearly as expensive as you think it is. Super easy to attach to the toilet, and it can be life-changing. And then they think about you every day. I don't know if it necessarily.
No, it'll be a positive.
Maybe it's not a romantic gift, but it could be. I guess it could be too. I don't know. Look, the bottom line is give the gift of a clean butt to yourself or to your loved ones this holiday season and get 10% off plus free shipping right now at hellotushy.com/majority. That's hellotushy.com/majority for 10% off and free shipping. Don't forget to tag Hello Tushy on social to celebrate your clean bum. All right, let's bring in Alex Pareene. He is the staff writer from the New Republic. He is the proprietor of the AP, the good AP. That is the medium, and of course the co-host of the Politics of Everything. Alex Pareene, wonderful to see you again. Of course, Emma's here.
Hello, Sam. Hello, Emma.
Casual
Hello,
Friday.
Alex.
I hope you're not too thrown off by my lack of a soft collar.
Yeah, it's a little striking. It was not the picture I expected to see.
Well, there you go. You know, that freaked you out a little bit. Dude, let's start with, I mean, we obviously have a lot to talk about this week. Really depressing week in many respects. But why are you being so obtuse? Let's just start with that, okay? Because, and I'm talking about, and you probably know what I'm talking about for folks who don't know. One, you're subtweeting me last night, I noticed. I'm just going to read the first of the tweet. An intellectual whose work I've read admiringly and who I am very confident now. Maybe a lot of people use
Yeah, Sam thinks you can read YouTube.
speech to text program.
That's true. Yeah.
Speech to text programs.
Sam
on our
wrote an
stuff.
audiobook just like Meghan McCain.
And who I'm very confident is much smarter than I. And I wanted to just say, don't be so confident about that, Alec. Has once again run aground on the obvious reject wokeness response of, quote, who precisely is supposed to do what precisely to whom and by what mechanism that will work. And then you're writing, as far as I can tell, and like, again, being obtuse about the Build Back Better bill. And but you refer to it as pizza. And
Yes.
all right, so let's start with the first thing where you were subtweeting me about and presumably this is really in the wake of Terry McAuliffe losing in Virginia. And, Virginia being a bit of a disaster. In New Jersey, it turns out that Murphy's going to win by close to 3 points, less than people thought. Also, the first time, apparently, since 1977 that a New Jersey governor got reelected.
No, a Democrat.
A Democratic New Jersey
Christie got
governor
reelected.
got
Isn't
reelected.
that amazing?
That is amazing.
You had like the McGovern scandals and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but still. And so, and before we get into that, just that point too, Eric Levitz had a piece that was basically, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but part of that just sort of outlined the general picture, right? I mean, it's an off-year election, first year of a new president. Virginia governor almost always loses if their president's in power, but there was an expectation that McAuliffe was going to win, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, give us your broad perspective on that, and then let's talk about this sort of like reaction. There was one tweet that I saw that said, countdown to Democrats basically coming out and saying we need to get more racist as a way of combating what happened in Virginia.
Well, right. I guess what's interesting is that you have a lot of things that were like any election. Sure. You have a lot of things that were particular to this race and these specific races that were particular to Terry McAuliffe, the candidate. They were particular to his opponent. But at the same time, you describe, if you just gave me the broad outlines in the sense of like, it's a Virginia governor's race, which are always open races because they have a one-term term limit, which automatically makes them weird. You look at the history and pretty much like clockwork, Democratic president next year, Virginia has a gubernatorial election that the Democrat loses. Like that just happens over and over and over again. So obviously it's still worth examining why that happens. But I do think now that we're a few days removed from how terrible things felt on Tuesday and Wednesday, it is more apparent, I think, that we just witnessed a lot of sort of normal political reality, like a lot of elections that even if we thought Democrats would have done better a month ago. If we abstract it out, we would have said, oh yeah, that might actually be tough. And, you know, and there was a lot of money spent in Virginia but like in New Jersey and, you know, here in New York, like we get the Jersey, the Jersey ads, right? And I mean, it didn't exactly feel like an overwhelmingly like those midterm cycles when you just are bombarded with ads, right? It felt like kind of a little sleepy even. And I think like the more interesting result to me is Steve Sweeney getting booted, having not campaigned whatsoever. Like that just suggests something that, to bring this back to actually make a point, like, so was this a referendum on wokeness in public schools in Virginia, or was this just the party in power getting punished by people who are, for a million different reasons, unhappy with how things are going?
And particular people in that party. So McAuliffe couldn't be more of an establishment guy. And then you talk about Steve Sweeney, the Senate president in Jersey, union guy who basically pissed off every union in New Jersey, strayed away from that by leading an effort to cut pension plans in New Jersey. And then he loses his seat to a guy who apparently spent $200.
That guy who barely had a campaign.
So all of the talking heads saying the rejection of wokeness, which is of course coded, rejection of the left, and Tim Kaine blaming the left for holding up the bipartisan infrastructure bill, among other, you know, Mark Warner as well. Like, that's clearly running counter to the realities on the ground here. McAuliffe and then even someone like Sweeney, they were the casualties here, the surprising ones, and they were both as establishment as it gets.
And to get to the point I was trying to make last night, the prescriptive argument for what Democrats are supposed to do loses all meaning when you're talking about a candidate like Terry McAuliffe, right? Like the entire point of this up until Joe Biden was elected was that we needed Joe Bidens to fight back against the white rejection of Democratic wokeness. We needed people like Joe Biden to be in charge. And then the corollary to that would be that instead of someone young, instead of someone exciting, instead of someone progressive, instead of a candidate of color, well, Virginia needs Terry McAuliffe. He won it before. He's an old, safe white guy. Literally, what are we supposed to do? Like, if electing Joe Biden president and nominating Terry McAuliffe was not enough, I think it's hard for me to even understand what additional steps Democrats could take if that is your prescription for what they need to do.
Well, first off, I appreciate you saying this to my face finally. I mean, I think the bottom line is that is not that recipe is not necessarily particularly, you know, the context. It may have been right for Joe Biden last year. I don't know. I'm not necessarily, you know, it's very hard to say, like, what if it was Elizabeth Warren? What if it was Bernie Sanders? What if it was Kamala Harris? It's very difficult to sort of, like, you know, make that assessment. Although I think in a couple of those instances, I probably could make an assessment. But nevertheless, what is interesting to me about, well, there's two things that occur to me, you know, in the wake of this. One is that the establishment and the consultant class much better at spinning a narrative out of something than everybody else, right? I mean, that is, to the extent that they have an ability to do anything, that is what their ability to do is. Like, they were on this, you know, put up this tweet by Tim Kaine. This is pretty astonishing. Well, I guess it is, and it isn't astonishing. But Tim Kaine was out there yesterday, and I guess this guy from, was it Business Insider wrote this, but here is this. This is a good example. So Brian Metzger, I think it's from Business Insider. Tim Kaine tells reporters Democrats in Congress hurt Terry McAuliffe, calls out purist demands on the Build Back Better. I asked him to what extent he faults McAuliffe. Quote, you know, there's a million reasons behind any victory or loss, but that's not productive right now.
That's the entire dynamic. That's it.
That's really, I mean, touche, right? Like, I mean, you really just have to sort of just say, like, wow, you gotta. I'd like to have seen that kind of balls, frankly, in just about every other thing that you've ever done, Tim Kaine, and sort of had juxtaposed those two comments. But so that's the first thing that I think is the big takeaway from this, is that like they have this narrative ready to go. They keep this on the shelf and they just deploy it when, and you know, we saw this, you know, in the wake of Clinton's loss too. I mean, this is deployed. We saw this in the wake of the 2020 losses in the House. Or lack of gains that we thought, right? It's because of defund the police and blah, 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 whatever it is. The other, I think, thing that strikes me about the McAuliffe election came from this Eric Levitz piece, which is, like you say, if you were to like step back and take a 20,000-foot view of this, you'd say, yeah, it's likely whoever runs as a Democrat in Virginia for this governorship is going to lose in this context. But somewhere between whatever that view is, 20,000 foot and down on the ground, theoretically, the fact that this is the party of Trump and everything that goes along with that over the past 5 or 6 years should count for something.
Yeah.
And Levitz writes this piece that says, like, it didn't.
Yeah. They were able to have it both ways.
They were able to have it both ways. They were able to sort of appeal on some level to the suburbs. Now, if you look into the numbers, it feels like it's, you know, a big cohort that swung against McAuliffe was white women without college degrees. So, you know, white working class women. The numbers in the turnout numbers were good for both the Democrats and the Republicans. Obviously better for the Republicans. But the Democrats, and this is one of those things, like, I don't know, you can make it up in a campaign. They've, for the past 6 years, have failed miserably, and they certainly failed in 2016, to tie the Republican Party to Donald Trump. And that is just an unforgivable failure, it seems to me, in terms of like politics.
Well, it's really funny because it's a failure in two different kind of contradictory ways, right? I think, and it should be very worrying for Democrats, because it's very worrying that this is exactly how it played out. Because I think what happened is that, I assume you saw the mailer that they sent out, right, with Youngkin, that was like only mentioned how Donald Trump has endorsed Youngkin, and then like it was a Democratic mailer with a big picture of Trump and the Republican candidate saying Donald Trump, you know, and like, you know, we have talked about Trump's kind of wacky effect on turnout and who turns out and what they vote for, and it seems very hard to like nail it down who he turns away and who he attracts. But I think what happened in this case, and what could continue happening going forward, is that the people who are turned off by him are not convinced by attempts to tie Republicans to Trump, and attempts to tie Republicans to Trump then activate people who like Trump.
Yep. Well, I mean, look, I think the groundwork was not laid to tie them together, and in this instance, the Republican Youngkin ran away from Trump in the general election totally. And also benefited from the fact that we are far enough out from 2024 that Donald Trump did not feel compelled to insert himself in the way into elections like he has in the past. And one could at least hope that he will in the future, at least in terms of like the midterms. But my concern is that like by winning in Virginia, there's going to be a better argument for Trump to stay in the sidelines and do what he did from behind, you know, because this is a guy, obviously, that, you know, it can be told like, you were the string puller, and it's better if you're doing it from behind the curtain, and him going like, yes, okay, as long as I get the credit. And that's a real problem for Democrats, because they haven't laid the groundwork. I think they couldn't convince people that he was tied to Trump in that way.
And but I mean, there's also the issue of like, okay, tying him to Trump, right? But this is what Democrats refuse to do, right? Is actually make a case against the GOP generally, and not just because look, Trump, like they enabled him, but like they enabled him, and it's like to actually sort of make a case that you know, the Republican Party itself is irresponsible and can't be trusted with power. They make every race about individual candidates every single time, and I'm sure they have. Yeah, I'm sure they have some, you know, I'm sure they have some reason for that probably is indicated in polling or something. But every single race becomes a story of two individual candidates disconnected from larger parties, and they need to actually learn to tell a story about why you can't trust the Republican Party and not this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They need to come up with their version of like, this is Trump University politics or something, you know, something like that, where they're able to sort of like have coded words.
But they're unwilling to do that. You have Pelosi basically saying we need a strong Republican Party. That's a dominant viewpoint.
That's the other massive failure is Pelosi saying that. They protected Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell in the run up to the 2016 election. And this sort of is a perfect segue into the massive failure that is the Build Back Better bill. And that is Joe Biden, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months after the Republican Party basically ushered in 1,000+ marauders into the Capitol building, and he lets them stroll into the White House to negotiate a bill that every single person involved knew they were never going to be on part of. And so the day that Joe Biden opened up the infrastructure bills, essentially, or bill to Republican input, was the day, as far as I'm concerned, that led to whatever debacle we end up with, that is the Build Back Better plan. And why did they do that? Like, why? Like, why was there it was almost like they projected onto the American public a desire to have the Republicans return to normal. And it's like, why would you do that? Because you're going to get Virginia if you're basically validating the fact that Republicans are normal, and they're not.
Yeah, it's really hard to make the case that Republicans shouldn't be trusted with power in an election. It's when you're trying to win an election and you're trying to convince voters, they should not even consider the Republican candidate. It's hard to make that case when your party is deciding that it cannot pass, that it made the entirely voluntary decision to turn its policy agenda, the president's signature policy agenda, to split it into multiple parts, one of which had to be passed with the support of Republicans. It just doesn't make logical sense. And then to say we need to include them in the governing process, and no one can really explain why. We just need to. There needs to be a part of this that they sign off on. And I think at some level there is obviously a sort of desire on the part of certain establishment Democrats to enable Republicans to hold power in order to stop certain advances they don't want from happening.
Right.
But at the same time, there's also, I think there's a sort of sincere belief in a completely nutty process by which treating Republicans as normal makes them go back to normal. I actually think that that's actually a sincere
They want to will them back to...
They want to will them back to 1968 or whatever, you know?
I also think there's a middle ground. I mean, I think there's a third position too. There's no doubt in my mind, and of course I think both parties do this on some level, where they want the other party to give them cover for things that don't pass. I mean, in the same way, there's some people hiding behind Manchin and Sinema to some extent. I don't think they could hide too much. Like Mark Warner may be happy the PRO Act's not there, but had Joe Manchin signed off on the PRO Act and Kristen Sinema, I don't think Mark Warner is going to stick his neck out like Joe Manchin has on these things. But And there's no doubt there may have been some impetus to say, like, all right, let's bring Republicans in so we can sort of like rough off some of the, sand off some of these rough edges on, what Bernie Sanders wants. And we don't expand the age of Medicare or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not convinced that that's not part of it too. And I do think that there is this notion of like, let's will back to the days of the Senate where, Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan and, could go out and have a drink after being really mean at each other and, whatever, like, what's his face from Utah and Ted Kennedy can go out and have a, go.
Or Biden.
Gallivant with people, whatever it is. Yeah. But I also think that the Biden administration thought, okay, we're going to show the American public that we're putting our arms out and that we don't really have a partner, in negotiating.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And so there's like that third position where they think they're being smart politically. They think they're appeasing this, they're scratching this itch that the American public has for that sort of, non-bickering between the parties. But I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the American people want. It's not that they want the parties to get along. It's that they don't want to hear any bickering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way that you don't hear any bickering
is to jam through your agenda.
Jam through your agenda and you just end it. Like that's what the COVID relief bill showed us.
They don't want bipartisanship. What they don't want is dysfunction. That's the number one thing that they'll react to.
They just want drama.
Or drama.
And so
this is what
rip off the Band-Aid.
And this is what I mean, having a longtime senator president is the worst possible thing because he's enabled the Senate to hijack this entire thing.
Yes.
And senators don't understand that like dysfunction, argument, things not working. That's just like how the Senate processes things when it gets into this mode that it's been in since spring, right? Yep. And I mean, what you just said.
It's unbelievable what we don't have settled in this Build Back Better bill.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And I made exactly the point you just made in August, which was that I made this
point in July.
They hadn't even started negotiating with the crucial votes they needed to win passage of this, and because they wasted all this time on this bipartisanship. But like the pointless bipartisanship, like that wasn't just their strategy to the negotiating with Republicans with the expectation those negotiations would fail was not even a voter directed strategy. That was a Manchin and Sinema directed strategy. Like it's nuts.
It's nuts. And all they did was give time for Manchin to have meetings with no labels and for Kristen Sinema to do fundraisers with corporate donors, and establish their plans of attack essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they gave him a lot of time to formulate a way to sabotage the entire thing.
And like, I don't know, like, I really do feel like this failure was 6 months old. And we spent a lot of time saying, it's the second 100 days of the Biden administration where this is going to be resolved. And that's where they really blew it.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it really was like April, May, June, July, where they really blew it. I can't remember when exactly he brought in those Republicans. I think it was around May. Maybe it was June, but that's when they should have put this vote on the floor. That they had an opportunity to basically, I hate to use this football analogy again. I think I waited for Emma not to be here when I used it last time. But, they were lining up in in the hurry up offense, and instead they just basically said, we're in a hurry up offense, but wait a second. Let's let the defense get settled because it's still got two guys.
Yeah, they have two. Yeah,
two guys who are still on the sidelines. Let the coach decide who they're going to do, and allow the linebackers to decide between themselves who they're going to pick up out of the backfield.
It wouldn't be fair if they were 12 men on the field. Was right? It wouldn't be fair to the process.
Dr. Seuss.
Respect the game.
Dr. Seuss. That's what they were talking about when the COVID relief bill passed.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest sort of like bills that we had
Potato Head.
Potato Head, yeah.
Mr. Potato Head.
We talked about it at the time. I remember it very clearly. They were not getting their footing. They were struggling to find a way to attack Biden, who had just passed that massively popular COVID relief bill, as you say. And then they were like, okay, they finally ended up with critical race theory and all of that, but it took some time, and you could have used that limbo period to do all of this.
I mean, conservatives at the time were freaking out because they had not seen Democrats in array like that. they were worried. They were worried it was a sign that this administration would be different. And like, thanks to the Senate for giving them time to formulate a winning message in Virginia.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about, I mean, since so much of this analysis has been a function of like, what are the implications for the midterms? I am of the mind that the Build Back Better, the passage of the Build Back Better bill was really more about the sort of policy implications than the political implications.
Yeah,
and that, just like the COVID relief bill, like that doesn't seem to have meant anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. And the expiration of the unemployment benefits. I mean, I think like you have a slow degradation and disengagement by the base, which I think it could be very problematic by the midterms. But it also, negative partisanship becomes very important. I think the real thing is going to be really the vaccine mandates and the potential to roll out, I don't know, more at-home testing and, like this Pfizer anti-COVID pill or the Merck one or, some other nameless COVID bill or the vaccinations for kids. Like that could change everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's as always, it's hard to see in the COVID era. It's like we don't know what the world's going to look like soon, but I don't know. I think it could be the case where things are back to normal enough, and the economy, depending on I think energy prices in large part, but the economy is doing well enough that the election can be held entirely on weightless cultural issues. Like I actually think that's like a kind of a real possibility I have, which is it's kind of to some extent what happened in Virginia. I think like the things they were talking about had real causes, but it was kind of just like, if the crisis feels mostly done, we can just go back to screaming about nonsense.
But didn't it kind of connect though with COVID? I mean, basically what Youngkin was saying was, his final pitch, Fox News op-ed was, I won't close the schools. This will be over. Basically, he ran on, you're all sick of this, and I'm going to end it.
Yeah, and I think that is, so the conservatives and Republicans have messages for their elite and messages for their base. I think for the Republican base, it's been over for a long time. They're not doing anything. Schools and schools are open in Virginia. So I think that was sort of an elite targeted message.
But then they're able to kind of say like, oh, well, if you elect a Democrat, it might happen again.
Yeah. But I just don't know. I mean, the reason I don't know if that was actually that compelling was because of the California recall, where that didn't work at all. I mean, maybe it was. I could be completely wrong. But the California recall seemed like an attempt to run on that issue above all else. Things will go back to normal. Schools open, won't close them.
California a bit different, I would say.
Well,
yeah, totally. Yeah, you're totally right. But yeah.
But aren't we looking at a source of dissatisfaction, right, and of anger, which everybody on some level is feeling?
That Biden spoke to when he ran against Trump.
Yes, which is like, this pandemic has sucked, and then isolating one part that it sucked the most about, which was centered around the idea of schools and kids being at home, right? Because I mean, look, if you're in your 20s in your 30s, you are probably the least likely to have felt, broadly speaking, across the country, the problem with this pandemic, right? Because maybe if you don't have kids and you're 20s and you're in the 30s, you're still going out to a large extent.
Yeah.
You can't see your parents or this and that, but like you don't know as many people who have died who are your age. You don't have a maybe rational or maybe irrational fear about what's going to happen with your children. And so, to hit the cohort of people who, and particularly, non-college educated, white working class, folks, and although who are at least more open to the Republican message, and particularly in Virginia, it is a combination of here's the angst. Where are you going to channel that angst? Yeah, well, here it is into a vague second, third order racism. and honestly, like this is just sort of classic scapegoating. You're unhappy, you're dissatisfied, you're feeling a malaise. Well, here's a scapegoat for you. And that doesn't work as well in California, and that doesn't work as well in New Jersey, and that didn't work in New Hampshire. And in Connecticut, it didn't work in the same way, at least in the, in the suburbs. But Virginia, maybe a little bit more open to that idea of scapegoating certain, cohort of people. And I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
If it seems to me we're in a position where COVID is not as big of a deal, that we have normalized to the extent that we can normalize, that kids are going to school and they're not masking up by, the end of next spring. And people are going out and, 98% of the country or 7% of the country is vaccinated or claim they are.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very different midterm, it seems to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a question too of does Biden go around the country barnstorming saying, I cured COVID. COVID went away because of me. I think that maybe that's a smart thing to do, but I also wonder, like, does that work? Does anyone give the government credit for it?
I think just the absence of it is to the benefit of Biden, right? I mean, the economy, there's every reason to believe that the economy is going to be doing well then.
I think employment will be good, hopefully, but I think the trends are all really good for employment. And actually, that actually gets to what is bugging me here. This sounds like I'm changing the subject, but I just want to get this in. Like, in all of the blame game I'm seeing about Democrats' agenda being too progressive or too liberal, there's a strike wave happening in this country, and Democrats are doing nothing for labor.
Nothing.
They have for years. There was their own campaign people know that when labor declines, Democratic vote share declines. You want to talk about the white working class? That's who you need to win back. There's a strike wave going on in the country. Democrats are not talking about it. They're not passing legislation addressing it. And it's not coming up in the postmortems. No one's bringing it up in the postmortems.
It also runs counter to the new kind of donor constituency that they're trying to covet.
Well, yes.
They're like, damn, do we really got to go back here? Because if they were just thinking about their electoral interests, yes, they would be leaning more into labor, but they've already gone down this path of upper middle class suburban voters, and I don't think they want to turn back, which is bad news.
And the strikes that we're seeing seem to me also to be sort of like, an analogy to what we saw in Virginia, in that people have gone through a lot of like a hell for the past 2 years, and they are looking for payback, and they are looking for some form of reparation. Yeah. And if you are, if you're a John Deere worker and John Deere is making record billions of dollars of profit. I mean, just obscene amounts of money. You're going like, you know what? Giving us a raise that you denied us over the past 10, 12 years, that ain't cutting it.
Yeah.
I don't care what our union bosses say. It is time to pay back. But if you're a parent and you don't have the opportunity to strike, and somebody gives you a target, and that is a combination of the schools and like some toehold, which is they're teaching you that white people are bad. That we're going to see this across the sort of like, I think, the terrain. It's going to manifest itself in ways that we like and manifest its ways in that we don't like. And a political party has to take advantage of that.
Political party has to capitalize on that.
And they're not doing it, and the Democrats aren't doing it at all.
No, they're not. And that's the thing, because these moments are contestable, right? You determine, the political actor has a major role in determining who is the target of this discontent. You got to pick a target. You got to pick a compelling target. You got to convince people that's the right target to go after. And Democrats are unable and unwilling to do that.
They seem completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk a little bit about, where we, the filibuster, but I have a feeling that's not going to get resolved before the next visit. So
I think that'll still be on the table next time.
I think it'll still be on the table. So what do you think? I mean, do you think anybody's going to be talking about Virginia in 3 weeks? I mean, aside from like all the sort of retrograde things that may happen, I mean, I don't have a sense of what Youngkin's going to do, in terms of like, Democrats in Virginia.
It's funny. I remember
over the past 2 years.
I remember Virginia elections dominating political discourse during the after Bush's reelection. I remembered like Virginia gubernatorial races, because of where the political media lives, have this huge outsized thing. And then like the governor gets elected, you never hear from him again, right? Like, right? McAuliffe already governor for a while. Who knows what he did? I mean, he actually was a decent Democratic governor, surprisingly. But I don't think we'll be hearing nonstop about it much after this.
Alex Pareene, how can people find your the better of the APs that are out there?
The better AP. You can find it at theap.substack.com. That's my newsletter. The AP parentheses Alex Pareene, which is my name. You cannot have any legal argument against me using my own name. And Politics is Everything is a podcast I do with the New Republic, where I am also a contributing editor. But yeah, check out the AP.
So let me ask you this. This is one of my one of my bailiwicks here. Why isn't anybody on Substack just buying a URL that says the AP Alex Pareene or whatever it is .com, so that it just forwards there?
My answer is that I was too lazy to. I did register. I registered my own name, and it redirects to my Substack. But I was too lazy to just set it up to be hosted there. I was too lazy for the hosting part of it, as opposed to the redirect. But you know what? I will consider it.
Redirect is fine.
Yeah.
But Substack's not going to set up a link that doesn't have Substack in the title.
Oh yeah, you can get a URL and have it forward there.
I understand, but they want Substack in the title.
So.
All right. Your question was, why didn't Substack set it up? So.
No. My question was, why didn't people with Substacks do it?
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I get it that Pareene's getting like, 6 figures Substack. It may have specific. So, Alex Pareene, always a pleasure.
Yeah, always. Thank you, Sam and Emma.
Folks, that reminds me, Majority Live.
Yes.
MajorityLive.com is how you get tickets to the live show. MajorityLive.com. Oh, wait a second. I can't remember what Sam said. Did he say Majority Live or MajorityReportLive.com? Yeah, both of them work.
Boom.
There you go. Check it out right now. Go to your computer and just put in the URL, MajorityReportLive.com. Where does that take you? And then try MajorityLive.com. Same place. That is January 16th. We have a live show in Boston at the Wilbur Theater. The guy from the Wilbur said to, well, not to me directly, but like, tickets are selling fast. And so people,
Get them while they're hot.
you've been warned.
People want to watch something besides the Celtics, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oof. I know. I was like, a week ago, I was like, I got to get tickets to the Celts. Nets takes all down there. And now I'm like,
Take your time on that.
I'll wait for the prices to drop. They drop, right? Like they set the prices.
I mean, Nets tickets are unbelievably low right now anyway, for especially a contending team. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Well,
I kind of almost
They couldn't
respect it.
give them away during the playoffs last year
It's fun.
when they looked like they were going to win the title, and Knicks tickets, like, you can't.
I went to a Nets game a couple years ago. It was really fun.
Yeah, super fun. And we can walk down there.
It doesn't matter what the Nets do. It doesn't matter if they win 3 rings in a row. This will always be a Knicks city. So enough.
We just get a really inappropriate I am. All right. Do you need to step out for a sec?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
why don't you
will.
step out while I go?
Read some IMs.
Yes. Well, I'm going to read some. We're going to bring Matthew, film guy, in just a moment. But I just want to remind you, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. And when you do, you not only support the free show, you get extra content. And right now, we are the Majority Report Brain Trust is huddling. And we're going to start like rolling out different features. We're going to be integrating the AM Quickie. You can find the AM Quickie at amquickie.com. Sign up for it. It is a newsletter that every morning, it's really fantastic. Corey and Jack do an amazing job every day. It is the first thing that I read when, it depends on when I get up, because sometimes I got to deal with the cats and the call and then the kids, but it's the first thing I read in the day, and they're doing a great job with it. I mean, really gives you a good sense of what's going on. Super easy read. Check it out, amquickie.com. Also, again, Majority Live, and if you want to join our Discord, majoritydiscord.com, and if you want to IM the show, majorityapp.com. So all those things. And we are, I think over the next like month or two, we're going to start to sort of like roll out some new features for members. Start adding more and more bonus stuff for members. But again, it's a great way to support the show. And it is your support that keeps the show alive. We do not, we stopped drowning somehow in the Comcast money. We were able to save ourselves from the drowning, and so now it's all just our members essentially that support this program.
Yeah, it's just the Google folks that are directly.
Oh yeah, and that's true. Eric Schmidt comes over and makes my bed every morning. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Leckian media universe before we bring in Matthew Film Guy?
Yeah, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. We've got a think tank for everybody, so that'll be going up for patrons this weekend. And we had a good episode with Ella Karakatsanis putting the scale and cruelty of the American injustice system into proportion. So that was this week. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Folks, let me also just point out one thing. You may see like I'm sort of fidgeting in a weird way today, and I got diagnosed with like a elbow problem, and I'm not supposed to be putting weight on this elbow. So I got to figure out, like, I'm thinking of maybe getting like some type of like thing that I can just push down on here so that I can support it like this, because I like to lean in.
Yep, just
I need like a handle here, just so that I'm going like this, because I'm not supposed to put it here because my fingers are numb.
That's your left.
Yeah.
What happened?
Don't know.
Weird.
Don't know. All right, let's bring in this guy, but it's going to involve the theme song. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while.
Matthew the Film Guy is choosing your streams. Cassavetes on Netflix and other such themes. Maybe I'll watch one and learn a few things. Please recommend me a movie to stream. Matthew, please recommend me a movie to stream. Matthew.
Matthew, film guy, is here, ladies and gentlemen, in the house with, I think, what appears to be a new. He's got some like new a posterage going on there. A Cassavetes film. Is it the? I can't quite make it out. Is it the Mikey and Nikki? Is that what that is?
That's right. It's a holdover from a This is Revolution special show I did a couple nights ago, where I extolled the virtues of Elaine May's masterpiece, Mikey and Nikki. So I thought I would roll it into this show. Why not? But first, I just want to say hello to you, Sam. Thank you for having me, you disgusting natalist scum.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your being here.
What's up, Matthew?
Hi, Emma. Your views are up in the air. At least Sam's are on record, but same to you.
Yes, I'm keeping that ambiguous, obviously.
Sure.
Now
Emma's a two-time loser. Go on.
Tell us a little bit about like May and Cassavetes and that crew, because I mean, at least there's like part of the Cassavetes crew there. Boy, you really were itching for this, weren't you?
Well, I've just been doing a deep dive of my own back into this. This is probably, full disclosure, my favorite film of all time. I mean, there's 3 or 4 that may vie for that title, but I was asked by Forrest Miller, who used to edit Michael Brooks's movies and for Michael Brooks show, and is doing his own podcast, the Movie Night Extravaganza, and he got invited to do this episode and asked me, what movie do you want to talk about? And Mikey and Nikki, I could talk about it for years, for months, for days, for hours. It sort of intersects with Cassavetes, who, as you know, is also one of my all-time favorites. It's sort of the reason why you and I met, because the Cassavetes scholar Ray Carney suggested I get to know you and so on. But Mikey and Nikki was actually written and directed by Elaine May, who you also know from her improv comedy background. She basically invented the art form in a lot of ways. She descended from the sort of Stanislavski method, Chicago school. And she had been wanting to make this movie for many, many years, which is supposedly based on a true life anecdote about gangsters that were in her family. And it's ostensibly a gangster movie, but it's 2 people played by Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. And you get to know their entire lives basically in one dark night of the soul as they're running from a hitman played by Ned Beatty. So it's sort of deceptively simple in its concept, but the characters are as well written as any that ever graced a screen. And it isn't improvised in the sense that any of the dialogue is improvised. Elaine May wrote the script, but Cassavetes and Falk's performances are like so genius. It's like a masterclass in subtext, performance, facial features, line readings, all of that stuff that's not actually on the page. So it's just an amazing movie that bears repeat viewing. And it's just one of my all-time favorites. And it has some similarities to Cassavetes' sort of worldview. And I could talk more about that if you'd like, but it's a great, great film. And it's very little seen. It's on the Criterion channel, though, if people want to dig into it.
I want to hear more about Cassavetes' worldview in a second, but we should also say that I feel like Elaine May is probably one of the most underrated figures in comedy and film. I imagine a big part of it has to be the fact that she was a woman particularly in that era. But she not only did masterpieces, in terms of like film, but also I feel like, the comedy that she did, I still remember, what's that?
A little more gauze.
Yeah, well, I had a video of Elaine May and Nichols like hosting.
Oh, the Emmys, their speech. Yes, I know you love that. That's a great, great
fantastic. Where they came out in support of mediocrity in television and how it's completely underrated and no one, it's overlooked, and it really is the sort of foundation of what television had become, and not got nearly the credit that it deserved. And just like her comedy stuff was just really incredibly impressive.
and completely underrated.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she at the time of this movie, she was only one of 3 women that were even in the Directors Guild in history. And, you know, if she was a man, we'd be talking about what an uncompromising artist she was, how she never, you know, gave in to the studios, how she fought for her vision. But instead, she got tarred as a difficult person to work with and was basically, you know, it's sort of like a story of what have you done for me lately? Because after this movie, the behind the scenes story of the making of this movie is as interesting as the movie itself in a lot of ways, because she basically had to like kidnap 2 reels of the film in order to get her final cut. And she like stashed it away. Supposedly the story is she stored it at her therapist's house. They had private detectives looking for it. The studios did. So it was a really big blow up to find this, to finally get this movie made. And, you know, she took 1.5 years to edit it before she even showed the studio, you know, things that you just don't do when you're under a studio contract. But you know, then they were like, we're never going to work with you again. Then she wrote an award-winning screenplay for the remake of Heaven Can Wait. And then they're like, oh, great. Yeah, here's another movie. And then, of course, that became Ishtar, which was celebrated as one of the greatest bombs of all time. And in reality, it's an actually really great movie, too. It's one of my favorite movies. Not quite as great as this one, but it was, you know, culturally sort of tarred as, you know, a horrible, horrible film before it even came out, because the studio were leaking rumors about how over budget she was.
Yep.
And, you know,
I remember that. That was like we don't see anything. I don't think there's ever been anything quite like that. Like the project of maligning that film as it was going on. Like there were sketches, I feel like, on Saturday Night Live mocking the movie before it came out.
Yeah, there was a
Waterworld was the only other thing that I feel like had that type of run up, and it was like people were gunning for her, I think.
Yeah. And it was one of these things which, you know, it's so inside baseball, it's not really that interesting to me really in the end, but it's like a studio had switched in the middle of production, and, you know, Warren Beatty was sort of her like consigliere for this because she had helped him on Reds, and then he had to go to bat for her and get her more time. And then, you know, when the studio heads switch, they don't want to like the project that the previous guy did. You know how it is, Sam.
Yes, I do.
But, you know, anyway, the point is Elaine May is definitely one of the unsung greatest artists of the 20th century. And it's, you know, I want more people to see her work. You know, A New Leaf also got taken away from her. She didn't get the final cut. I still think it came out pretty great. She fought to try to get her name off of it. And Heartbreak Kid, that's the only one that had no problem because she only just directed that. She didn't write that. Neil Simon wrote that, and someone else edited it. But that makes Mikey and Nikki her like ultimate masterpiece. It's like hers from start to finish. And they actually shot over 1 million feet of film, which at the time it was like more footage than Gone with the Wind, you know? So she made the movie she wanted to make, even though she, you know, was extremely perfectionist about it, and it took forever, and it was worth it.
Talk about Cassavetes' worldview.
Okay, well, what I mean by that is, you know, these aren't, you know, people always tar his movies as like, oh, everyone's yelling, and there's a lot of extreme behavior, and they're horsing around, and it's like not realistic. But he kind of dealt with life at the extremes, you know, these things that we may have at our disposal to push against societal expectations. And this movie really is about 2 people. They're criminals, so they're sort of already in a special category. And the whole movie takes place like after midnight, so it's in that witching hour where normal rules of social behavior sort of start to melt away. But he always wanted things rough-hewn. He always wanted things sketchy. He always wanted things kind of not staid, not cliche. There's no cliches in any of his movies or this movie. And it's sort of his worldview is, you know, it's all about investigating the individual's role in a society and what you give up by sort of going along to get along, what sort of death to the soul that might entail, but also what sort of madness you might be courting to, you know, continue to act on your impulses. So that's I think what makes the movie so awesome, so exciting, but also so like sometimes hard to take.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that was a bit of a divergence now, but you went through this on
this week's movie is The Eternals by Marvel.
Well, no, wait a second. Before we get to that,
no.
You were on This Is Revolution.
Yes.
So folks can check that out.
Yeah, check that out. We talked about Conan Neutron and Forrest Miller, the two co-hosts of Movie Night Extravaganza, had me on it. We got into it a little bit with Mikey and Nikki. They both love it too. So,
all right.
Feel free to follow me on Letterboxd, is what it's called. And we can talk movies all the time there if you want. And also on the Discord, the Majority Report Discord, we got some great conversations going on in the movie room there too.
So Matthew, what have you been up to? Like, what is happening? Like, production's in full swing now, it seems like, right? And
yes,
so
things are happening. Well, the IATSE strike was for a second, threatening to maybe slow things down. But,
well, they haven't voted yet.
They haven't voted yet, so that still could happen. But indie films, a lot of the stuff that I kind of go up for, not necessarily all union shoots. So it's good news, bad news as far as I'm concerned. But I've been taking a lot of meetings. I'll put it to you that way. A lot of stuff in the works. Nothing I can talk about quite yet. I'm waiting back on a couple things, but yeah.
So,
all right.
So what we're hearing,
I guess the fanfare will come when I actually get it, right? Okay, I was
yeah, of course. No, it's intrigue. That you just gave us intrigue, not celebration.
I'm celebrating having meetings. Give me a break.
That's incidentally how you should walk into a room.
I can bring you with me. That would be great.
So we're watching. This is like Black Bear payoff time.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, listen, making that movie was its own reward. So I don't like to speak in terms of that kind of a payoff in that sort of mercenary terms. But yes, I didn't do it for the money or the fame or the acclaim. But, when they all came, I said, okay. No.
Yes. No.
But,
I mean, are you walking into rooms and people are going, Black Bear was great?
Yes. That's the only reason they want to talk to me, obviously. Yes. Sometimes they say, I see you had a small role in A Bad Situationist, but we'll talk to you anyway. No, they don't say that.
They don't bring up pilot season?
I know. I think I did a much better job. I had more lines in that one. I mean, I'm just glad I survived the presence of a bazooka on the set of Bad Situationist.
All right. We're not going to talk about that. That one I don't feel like talking about.
I understand. Me neither. But yeah, I've been doing that kind of thing, and keeping the movie class going too, which is still available. Go to my Twitter and join us on Tuesdays at noon, where we talk about movies every week.
So this is great. So you're going in on meetings about editing.
Yes, editing.
Is it? Are you getting any? Maybe somebody saying like, "Hey, do you do any directing?"
No, not yet. Not yet. Let's see. Let's get a couple. Let's get a couple more editings under my belt, and then we'll talk about that. Because, but I feel like I do bring the full package to the table. I mentioned that I've done it in the past and that I've written. So that's kind of, I'm a well-rounded editor.
Now, just give everybody like a little insight into this. Obviously, we don't want to jinx anything. We don't want to put anything, we don't want you to, but when you go in for meetings, are you meeting with producers? Are you meeting with directors? Are you meeting with agents? Like, who is it that you meet with? What stage in the production do you go in? Give us an insight of like what a soon-to-be major motion picture editor's life is like as he or she is looking for work.
It's different on different films. I've talked to sometimes the producer first, and they sort of, give me a brief little shakedown and like, here's what it is and what's going on. Very frequently, they'll send me the script first, and I'll read it, and then I'll decide like, okay, I like it. One or two scripts I read, and even though I can't be too choosy, I was like, I don't know if I could really spend 9 months working on this. So it gets past that point. I read the script, I turn it right around, and then it's often the producer first, and then if that goes well, I've had a couple of Zooms with the director, the guy that I'm actually going to be working with. And those are, that's the final stage negotiation. We see if we hit it off. Some of them last 10 minutes. Some of them go an hour and a half. So
now,
see how it goes.
What do you come in after reading a script and you come in and you say, I see this as being very fast paced, or I see this, the editing reminds me of this, or are you talking about story? I mean, what is it like? I know what you're getting at. I try to keep it kind of high level, and I try to feel out from the other person what they are in the mood to hear, because
I know some directors, like, they don't want to hear, oh, this reminds me of this movie meets that movie. And some of them I've wound up finding out they did, like, oh yeah, that helps me. Okay, yeah, this movie. Oh, I haven't seen that one. I'll watch that. And so, it's like a grab bag.
Are you pitching technical skill, or are you pitching understanding of story?
I'm pitching understanding of story, and I'm sort of pitching confidence in the delivery of a cut on time. That's also what I'm realizing is, like, we only have 6 weeks because these are kind of lowish budget movies. And, I sort of talk about my process, how much note taking I want to do ahead of time, and they ask me, do you want to sit with me for everything? Do you want to go off on your own for a while and come back with something? And for the record, I do prefer to do like my own cut first, and then the director comes in and gives notes. But I can work both ways. I've worked with the worst frame fuckers in the business where they're just like, go this way, go that way. And I've been left alone. So I'm basically just pitching myself as an overall competent editor. So all that stuff gets touched on.
And you have to come off as sort of somewhat, likable, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with this person.
Oh, I forgot that. I forgot to do that. Yeah, no, I have to do that. Yeah, definitely. It's like some of them have been very friendly. We've actually seemed to be like, we could get along. Some of them have been a little bit more business, but yeah, for sure. That's all part of it, because it's like a therapist in a way.
Are any of these comedies? Like, how do you establish, like, I get comedy or something like that? Or is it drama or what?
My agents actually did want to include some of the stuff. Like I did Ted Alexandro's Teacher's Lounge web series, and some of the little shorts that I did with you guys and Marin and stuff are in there. So they at least are aware that I have
you've been around comedians.
Penchant for comedy in that sense too. But for the most part, right now, the things that I've been getting are like Black Bear, like dramas, sort of with a horror-ish tone.
Oh, wait, was that a drama?
Did you see it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a comedy drama that's sold as a horror.
Yes, no, yes.
I mean, that's what's funny about Mikey and Nikki, actually, is that it people went into it thinking Elaine May, it must be a comedy. And it really kind of is. It's like the blackest of black comedies of all time. So that's kind of my wheelhouse, is comedies that are really dramas, or vice versa.
All right. Well, this has been, what I liked about this segment, and we haven't even gotten to your suggestion yet, but what I like about this segment, aside from what we learned about, Elaine May and Mikey and Nikki, is we have an insight to what it's like to be an editor looking for work coming out of a pandemic when things are starting to heat up, particularly with low budget. And there's suspense, because it's possible next time we have Matthew Film Guy on, you're gonna have a job.
You're gonna get booked. Yeah.
Oh, all right. From your mouth to the god of Hollywood's ears, or Indiewood. Sure.
Knocking on wood.
And with that said, I should also tell you that Peacock thing, that's not happening.
Great. I was counting on that.
6 months to see if he was going to be doing some of the editing.
Riding our
6, 7, 8 months.
Huh?
Yeah.
No, now
right. I should have given you a heads up earlier. That's not happening.
I may have put that together when I saw that ridiculous shirt you're wearing.
What, without the collar? Are you saying? Yeah.
No, you look great. You look really great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say, Matthew. What do you have for us this weekend, Matthew?
Well, once you get done watching Mikey and Nikki and you're in the mood for something else,
I should also have you, in the future, you should come out like one for the kids and one for the adults. Because
I was thinking that. I heard. What's that, Emma?
One for different moods. So you need to pick me up. Say you want a drama.
Well, then you got to go to his letterbox.
Oh, right. Sorry,
I mean, on my letterbox, you'll see some of the absolute dribble that I subject myself to in my spare time too. So you can always see, how I feel about some of the recent releases, or some old silly movies too.
It's okay. I watched Half Baked the other weekend, so it's.
You did?
Yeah.
That was written in my apartment.
Oh, it really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Are you joking?
Yeah. No, in the apartment in Who's the Caboose. In LA, Neil Brennan at one point was my roommate, and he and Chappelle wrote it in the other room.
Wow.
It was about your apartment, I thought, right?
No, it was not about my apartment.
Okay.
That was like the ultimate sleepover movie when I was a kid.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I always rented it.
The sleepover. Good parents.
Yeah.
So actually, the movie that I want to tell people about this week is an English film and it's from the early 90s, and it is called Distant Voices, Still Lives. Have you ever heard of it, Sam?
I have not.
Okay, it's Terrence Davies, who had done, I think, a couple other films at this point, but has gone on to make many other films. And this was actually the first of his films that I had ever seen. You know, I like to use the film class to sort of see movies that have big reputations, things I haven't seen. Whenever I meet someone and they go, "Oh, you haven't seen that? You call yourself a film guy?" I put it on this list. I show it to the class, and this was one of them. And let me tell you, hands down, this is a 5-star movie. It is incredibly touching, incredibly emotional, but it is also one of the most extremely controlled yet poetic kind of aesthetics that a film I think I've ever seen. Outside of someone like Andrei Tarkovsky and so on, it's basically like an impressionistic look at post-war English life from a family's point of view, a working class family in, I think, in Liverpool, and it's sort of told.
You didn't know where it took place?
What's that?
You didn't know where
all those British, seaside towns look the same to me. But yeah, I think it's Liverpool, and it's like what they struggle through after the war. A little bit of flashbacks during the war. The father, played by Keith Postlethwaite, is kind of an overbearing figure, and it's told sort of out of chronology in 2 halves, and just some of the most beautiful imagery. But I don't usually go for like, wow, picture postcard. It's like actually really just incredibly affecting and really mind-bending in the way that it kind of works with the camera in slow motion and imagery. It's all sort of faded. It kind of looks like you're looking through their photo album, and it's not really didactic. It's not like leading you by the nose, like, oh, here's this horrid story of deprivation. It's like very impressionistic, and you have to fill in a lot of the gaps yourself. And it's actually very short too for a movie of this kind. But it went over huge in the class, and I just had a huge new love for Terrence Davies. So I'm going to go see all of his movies. But this is Distant Voices, Still Lives. And I'm not exactly sure where it's streaming, but it's worth hunting down and finding for sure.
I don't know that Carney would be terribly happy with you being all excited about slow motion.
No, I'm pretty sure he's into Terrence Davies. Slow motion is not in and of itself some sort of stylistic affectation. It can be used in a meaningful way. So
did you like how it was used in Drive? When I think of slow motion, that's being used in a stylistic way. That's the number one way.
Yeah, no, I actually did. I'm in a sort of a minority of serious film guys that I actually liked Drive. Apart from Albert Brooks being one of the most creepiest roles he's ever played, I actually dug it. I haven't seen any of that guy's other movies, so I know he kind of has like a reputation as being like an empty formalist. But it was good. I liked it.
I liked it too, but I know a lot of people who are really smart really didn't like it. So.
Yeah, I ran into that too. But it's got kind of the genre pleasures of the crime film, but it's also, it got a slick look to it. I appreciated it. It's not, solid B.
How much of the movie that you just told us about, entitled Distant Voices, Still Lives?
Good job, Sam, writing that down.
You say it was post-war in Liverpool. I would imagine that is also, seeing as how I think the 50th anniversary of the release of Let It Be, and they just came out with a new. That's also the sort of the context in which the Beatles came out of.
Okay, so you just tapped into one of the coolest things about Distant Voices, Still Lives, which I didn't mention. And in a lot of ways, it's almost a musical. So it really starts off with the ways in which popular culture and entertainment sort of got them through the war. And it was always like drinking songs in the bar, or they were singing in the bomb shelters and so on. And then it sort of slowly marches you right up to the point where record players came in, and the singing, there's all these singing, at the bar and the funerals, at the weddings. And it sort of ends just before you would know the Beatles would have come out and changed this whole culture of like singing, popular singing at home, probably forever. So it's actually really, I think they're like the biggest negative space in this movie. They're not mentioned, but it's actually, I think, quite relevant to think of the Beatles with this movie.
That's fascinating.
Not just because it's the only thing you know about Liverpool.
I went to camp as a young kid, and there was a couple, like 1 or 2 British counselors, and they they'd come over on some program, and and I learned a couple of like British pub songs as a child that were probably inappropriate. But there was nothing like like that with Americans. Like Europeans sing much more than Americans do. Did I make you freeze on that, Matthew? Matthew Film Guy froze. Wow.
Maybe he's just deep in thought about it.
You really.
Hold on, let's just wait. Let's just pretend like he's not frozen and just sit here going.
Nah, it was too much for him.
Yeah, I blew his mind. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that seems to me to be, the best way to end a Matthew Film Guy segment.
Yes.
We got the movie, and we didn't
What
have
kind
to
of
have
cut is that?
Didn't have to have. That's a smash cut.
Smash cut.
Exactly. Folks, check out his letterbox, Langdon Boom. You can also check out his eBay stuff. We didn't get to what he's selling these days, but I suspect if he's going in on meetings, he's not going to be doing, he's not going to be spending too much
Maybe
time
he'll be eBaying
selling Doritos or whatever it is.
Or like bottled water he gets from the meetings or something like that.
Could be. If he lands a job, start marketing those things. All right, let's take a quick break. Head into the fun half. No freebie Friday today.
No,
not going to do 2 of those in a row.
I might be 3 in a row.
Yeah, we're not doing it.
Sorry.
Wait, he's coming right back. He just texted me. He's mad.
This is a post-credit scene.
Yeah, let's just
in
do
Eternals.
a quick. Yeah, exactly. This is like this is the Easter egg.
Saul makes you stay for the post-credit scene.
Of course. Well, that's because he doesn't want to go to bed.
Oh yeah.
So he pretends like he's interested in the credits when it's really just like, dude, you're not even looking at the TV. I'm listening to it. You got to go to bed. The credits are still on. The movie is still on, Dad.
I would pass a law that would ban after credit sequences.
Yeah.
I want to get out of there.
I don't like it either. But...
It's interesting because credits used to be in the front.
Oh yeah, that's even worse.
Why is it worse?
Well, I was
so you're just saying you don't want credits?
You don't want anybody who made the movie to get
credits.
their due.
I just don't like to have to sit through the credits to like watch something, and then you actually sit through it, and then there's not anything there.
But sometimes they're like in Bond movies, the credits at the top of the movie after the initial scene, like that gets me hyped up.
Actually, like in the old westerns when they used to have like a 2-minute credit sequence of just like
not just old westerns, all the movies, all the credits used to be up front, and they would have very little in the credits in the back.
That's better because I mean I don't have a problem with the credits. I just don't like the thing where it's like, oh, it's time to go, and everyone's still sitting because Samuel Jackson's going to come and talk to the next superhero after the credits.
That's not why people do the credits. It's because you're paying respect to the people who spent all that time on the movie.
No, I'm just talking about the after the credit sequence.
Yeah. No, I agree with
my
that.
Problem.
I mean, I like when modern filmmakers, I don't know enough about film, but like I like when modern filmmakers do opening credit sequences. Like I think David Fincher does that a few times. It's cool.
Like I'll watch the credits up front, but I just don't like the thing at the end.
Saul can't stand it. He's like, what's going on here? We've been watching for 2 minutes and there's no movie yet. All right. Well, Matthew Film Guy is not coming back in, I guess. So we're going to head into the fun half. Join the MajorityReport.com. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-4, 5, 7, 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2, 5/8, 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy!
Dance, dance, dance.
Rand Paul.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way. Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook.
Throw our hands up.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
these guys are fucking.
I know.
Folks, it's the fun half.
I
Let's just bring
cannot believe
Matthew Film Guy back on to say goodbye to him.
Okay.
Am I here now?
You are.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. I have
All
no
right.
idea why that happened. That only seems to happen with you.
Well, we're going to say goodbye. We just brought you back on to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
I mean, I just need a closure. I can't just walk away. But can I just mention one other thing? You wanted a fun thing, and I wanted to mention one thing that you guys brought up tangentially the other night that I actually thought was great, and it's on Apple streaming, and it's For All Mankind, and it's not just sci-fi. It's kind of like a history, alternate history. So I want to see you watch that, Sam. That's actually something you could probably get into.
What is it? On what? Sci-fi? What is it?
It's called For All Mankind. It's sort of like what would have happened if the Russians got to the moon first, and then an alternate history branched off of there.
Oh, that sounds.
It centers around. It's sort of like The Right Stuff meets a kind of alternate sci-fi history, and because it causes all these things to happen. Like then we start to put a base on the moon. Then they put the first woman in space, so we have to have a female astronaut. So it's actually very interesting for history nerds. Apart from
what happens to podcasts and YouTube shows? Well,
they're only up to the 90s. Season 3 is going to be the 90s. So it's like this first season is sort of like the 70s. Second season's the 80s, and then and you see some historical figures be woven in. People you'll recognize. Some people that are historical figures.
Does Who's the Caboose get made? I guess we got to find out.
I assume in any history worth having, Sam Seder has some sort of a comedy career. And maybe if the Russians get to the moon first, you avoid this terrible fate. You actually become like the next Albert Brooks or, whatever you wanted originally.
Matthew Film Guy, I will check that out, For All Mankind.
Yeah.
And, as always, we already plugged your eBay and your Letterboxd.
Yes. And my Twitter, where you can go sign up for my class. That'd be great to see more Majority Report people. We've got a few already, so it's a lot
of people say a lot of good things about that class.
Awesome.
A lot of people are right. Thanks, Sam.
People.
All right, Matthew Film Guy, always a pleasure. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon. Okay. Where should? Oh yeah. Should we Nikki Haley or Marco Rubio? Yeah, let's do both. Hey, do you remember last week where we played that clip from Sean Hannity where that guy, that low-level, Newt Gingrich, right. He was the former Speaker of the House, Republican on there, was just one of many who was saying that if the Democrats won in Virginia, it was clearly stolen. This is before the election, incidentally. Well, here's Marco Rubio on that same Sean Hannity program.
People are nuts. They spend all day on television and after they're off the air talking to everybody, and they all agree with each other because they all live in one or two cities, and they literally are completely out of touch with the fact that 97% of the American population lives completely different lives, has completely different views, and then when election day comes, they can't explain it, so they chalk it up to they cheated or white supremacist or whatever. They make something up because they can't comprehend it. Last night was the beginning of that pushback, and I think it's going to continue. And
that's Marco Rubio claiming that Democrats on TV are talking about they cheated. And incidentally, I mean, just to be fair, I've always perceived a significant amount of Republican votes, and I think it's really indisputable, frankly, is a function of white supremacy. There are different times where it may or may not make the difference, but I challenge anyone to refute concepts like the Southern strategy and Lee Atwater's deathbed admission. And, I mean, Ronald Reagan giving his opening remarks in the general election at the Neshoba County Fair. I mean, a huge percentage, I don't know what percentage it is, significant percentage of Republican votes every time is a function of white supremacy, which is not to say that there isn't white supremacy on the Democratic side, but it is not nearly the electoral strategy that it is for Republicans, and that's absurd to claim anything otherwise. And to be talking, Marco Rubio, almost 11 months to the day from January 6th, and you talk about the concept of like, they don't like the election results, they're so out of touch, they say it was stolen.
Yeah, 97% of people don't see the reality of it. Like, okay.
Also, I mean, I don't know what he's talking about or who he's referencing. Who is saying that the election was stolen?
I don't know.
It doesn't necessarily matter, right? He can just claim
That's a good question,
and then
he was saying it sounds like he was saying they were saying it on TV.
There's nothing, right? He's claiming that there are liberal pundits claiming this election was stolen. It wasn't particularly close. I haven't heard that people are saying that the election was stolen, but he doesn't matter. It's a way for whoever's watching him on the right to be like, see, the left does it too, and they're hypocrites if they call us out for it. That's the function it serves.
I knew a guy who, years ago, when Marco Rubio was pushing for about 15 minutes immigration reform, who was like, Marco Rubio is one of the good guys. And I'm like, dude, I got some very bad news for you in some brief time in the future. And I wonder where he is today, what he thinks of Marco Rubio, who's just like completely...
probably dazzled by Nikki Haley now.
Generic, yes, probably. I mean, Marco Rubio is really just dime store Republican now.
Yeah, he's toast. He used to have the virtue of being like a younger Republican.
Right, he was he was like the next generation of Republican politician.
I know, just because he looks young doesn't mean he's updated his software in any way.
Well, now that's not even the case.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nikki Haley.
Yes.
Nikki Haley is in direct competition with Marco Rubio to be the new face of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course...
She's smarter than him, though.
She probably is smarter than him. He's not the brightest bulb. But they both know that the new face of the Republican Party has to look a lot like the old face of the Republican Party, and particularly if their literal face does not look like the vast majority of the Republican Party. So they've got to talk like they're the old face Republican Party. Here she is on, where is it? The recount.
No, the recount got the video, right?
Oh, got the video. Where is this? All right, here she is. Well, let's watch.
Regardless, this interview was like, it went a little viral this morning, in this clip in particular.
We seriously need to have a conversation that if you're going to have anyone above a certain age in a position of power, whether it's the House, whether it's the Senate, whether it's vice president, whether it's president, you should have some sort of cognitive test. Like, just like you have to show your tax returns, you should have some sort of health screening so that people have faith in what you're doing. And right now, let's face it, we've got a lot of people in leadership positions that are old.
That was on purpose, the tax returns comment.
Sorry, your entire party is constantly concerned trolling over pandemic response policies, but now we want to empower psychiatrists to say, actually, this politician doesn't pass the test.
She doesn't.
This is insane.
Didn't Trump do this? Person, woman, man, camera, TV. Do we all forget that he had that psychological test?
And he nailed it. He nailed it.
He was able to figure it out.
But let's be honest. First of all, in addition to the fact that her party has completely abolished the idea of releasing taxes, there's no subjective assessment of the taxes except for by the voter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the taxes exist. There's a process that's there, and you can assess. Like, I don't think this person's paying enough taxes.
We don't have a presidential tax parliamentarian, for example.
Yes.
And we shouldn't.
Or some type of like person who divines what the meaning of, the dark meaning of the taxes are. No, it's pretty straightforward. A cognitive test, I'm curious as to what that would be. Maybe like a driving test. You got to pass a driving test. I mean,
when's the last time you think Trump drove a car?
I am in favor, I think, of maybe a mandatory retirement age. That I might be open to.
This is just a way to go after Biden for like that he doesn't have control of himself, and like that's what they're going to run with, right? There's somebody behind the curtain pulling the strings. It's not a bad strategy, but I just want to return to her tax returns comment briefly, because a lot of people are pointing out online, oh, look at this hypocrite, right? Does she not remember that Trump didn't disclose his tax returns? She does. She's saying this to box him out in 2024.
Well, she's not just saying to box him out over the taxes too. Like, she's probably got some questions about his cognitive abilities.
That's where they got this from. This was from the Trump administration when liberals were saying we need a 25th Amendment him because he's clearly nuts.
Yep.
Well, he is clearly nuts, but like the problem is that then you set up this exact moment where Nikki Haley is using that against Biden, who's like, has trouble sometimes speaking.
I think the 25th Amendment is different than a cognitive test, because the 25th Amendment is really like what is going on in the White House that inspires the people around that person to invoke the 25th Amendment. And if they do that for Biden or Trump or whomever, then, it doesn't even have to be an old person. Obviously, they could be anybody.
It's not introducing a new, like psychiatry
assessment metric.
I mean, I don't even think we're saying that for Feinstein, right?
Yeah, no.
Like I say, I would not have a problem with a mandatory retirement age in government. I really.
Let's talk about that when Bernie's gone.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, I mean, look, it's not going to happen anytime soon. But I'm not against that idea in principle, to be honest with you. All right, let's just play this one, B2, because this was interesting. It came up the other day. I can't even remember the name of the guest. It was a pre-tape on the McDonald's franchise. We just look up what her name was. So in Virginia, a Republican,
Marsha Chatelain,
right, was the guest. Virginia elected a black lieutenant governor. I think, is she the first black female lieutenant governor in Virginia?
I believe that is the case, yes. You can find images of her holding assault rifles on Google Images if you choose to do so.
Here she is on Sean Hannity's program. And the other day we had on this program Marsha Chatelain, who's written a book. I can't remember the name of it. Is Franchise.
I'll look it up.
It's about McDonald's.
franchise the Golden Arches in Black America.
And she had told an anecdote in the book, I think it came up in the interview, about Richard Nixon. So I will tell you what this, what she's trying to say here, but it's sort of fascinating.
The first person who ever really talked about black business equals black power was Richard Nixon. Black business equals black power. Imagine that. All this time it appears that Nixon was a homeboy.
Nope, not exactly. And that's why Democrats
Exactly right.
shouldn't say like stuff about, you know, black businesses, because you're just feeding into bootstraps capitalism. But
Richard Nixon had a loan program. And this was at a time, according to Marcia Chatelain, who wrote a book about this era, about the development of McDonald's, or particularly around this time, in the wake of the upheavals in cities across the country in the 60s. Nixon had a loan program for black businesses because the Republican Party was still courting black sort of celebrities and wealthy people. Remember now, the parties up until like 1965 were still very much reflective of the radical Republicans who had pushed Reconstruction 100 years earlier, a little bit less, 70 years earlier, 80 years earlier. And that sorting didn't really quite happen until the 60s. And but Nixon apparently went to one businessman and said, I'll give you $9 million loan if you open up a McDonald's in Ohio, and I can come and take a couple of pictures there. That was so he was a homeboy in that sense, I guess.
yeah, or
Exactly right.
or a homeboy in the sense of was caught using racist language on tape, since he recorded everything with Ronald Reagan. I forget which African president he was referring to. Started the war on drugs from a policy perspective, which his COINTELPRO. Nixon's own aides admitted that the war on drugs was a way for him to target, quote, blacks and hippies. But I guess he was a homeboy in that sense.
Because he did this all for black capitalists, I guess, owning McDonald's.
But I mean, and not even that, as Sam says, like, I mean, she's doing, it's very cynical what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty gross. But I mean, I don't know how you live with yourself. But
it's not a way out, though. Capitalist activity is not going to lead to liberation for any sort of wide group of people.
Well, it would for franchise, you know, in that moment for franchise owners and capitalists. Yes. Big time. But that's what she meant there about that Nixon thing. But they're going to, the idea that you're going to try and resurrect Nixon
seems like an uphill battle, honestly. I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm not super, maybe the kids are different than when I grew up, but I don't know if Nixon really goes off.
We should just mention, did you cover the Tim Pool thing yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I should just mention, though, that Tim Pool apparently has been conferring with Joe Rogan, as is your buddy Rogers.
Dude, I'm so sad about that.
But why is Joe Rogan covering the costs of Tim Pool getting COVID treatment? The dude is a multi-millionaire.
I think there's some sorts of PR because of covering their tracks of the irresponsibility. Like Tim Pool was very pointed saying, Joe's like, dude, you got to take this really seriously. That's not what Joe Rogan has been saying like for the past months. He's been saying, actually, if you're young, you might be dangerous to get the vaccine.
Right. And I also want to reiterate personally, when was this? When did Tim Pool invite me to
like spring, maybe?
Was it in the spring of this year? Was it in the fall of last year? I can't remember when it was. Tim Pool invited me to do his show. And he announced on Twitter that he wanted to have lefties on his show or something. And I said, I'll do it. And he said, okay, when can you do it? I said, well, I can probably do it next week. And so he got into my DMs, or I got into his. I can't remember exactly.
This was June.
This was just June? Yeah. Oh, my God. So this past June. And he said, this was this past June?
Oh, sorry. He was commenting on it in the wake of Crowder, so it was a little bit earlier.
No, I feel like it was pre-vaccine. And then he said, like, yeah, no, we'll fly you down here and put you up. And I'm like, dude, I do a daily show, A, and B, like, I'm not sure I want to go into your studio, because this was not at a time, I think maybe you and I were in a studio together, but we had a tarp across here.
Open window,
we had open windows. We had 2 filters there. I was taking CO2 levels and in here because I got kids. And not only do I have kids, one of my kids was like podding with some other kids. So I have a responsibility to those kids and their families. And not only that, I have an ex-wife who we're not potted together. So, there was a lot of people I was responsible.
But Sam, it's easier just to think about like the most recent Marvel universe than to think about all of this stuff.
Exactly. And so I said to him, I'm happy to do it by Zoom. And he said, well, we don't do it by Zoom. We don't even have internet in the studio.
Yes. Didn't he, like, a few days later then do a stream?
Well, they do
with,
a different show.
They do a different show, to be fair. But and then the name of his show was
the point is it could have
real
been
life.
worked around.
But it couldn't. But then he, and look, okay, so I can't do it. But then he accused me of lying and being ridiculous and claiming that they followed, they take, all the protocols seriously and COVID's more or less going away and we have hand sanitizer. And I guess my point, now that it's been announced that Tim Pool has contracted COVID and he got it very bad, is I'd like an apology. I think it was rude, his response to me. I think it was uncalled for.
Called you a coward?
Did he call me a coward?
Yep.
I think that was rude. I have said that, particularly now that I am vaccinated, I would be willing to go down there, and particularly now that we don't have to do the second Peacock show, I could do the show from the road, or you could do the show, or whatever it is. So I'm willing to do it, but more than anything else, I'm just simply hurt that he's not apologizing, because it seems to me to be self-evident now that I was right and he was wrong. And the stakes, obviously, for someone my age, I mean, he's 20 years younger than me, at least, right? There are people my age who die from COVID. There are people my age who I have kids, like I say. And so I want to, say that I'm very disappointed in Tim, that he has not apologized. If I remember correctly, when the Avengers had a big fight and broke up, and when they got back together, I think like Iron Man apologized to Captain America. So there's precedent for something like this.
Exactly.
Which is not to say that we were ever on the same team, the Avengers together. I'm just saying that I'm trying to express it in a way that they'll understand. There's been plenty of examples of superheroes where they apologize to other people for things that they did was rude.
Yes.
Or wrong. And even sometimes superheroes have to admit, like, I did something wrong. This would be like if Thanos found out that, one of the other guys had done something and had made a mistake. Like Thanos probably in the end regretted it, and he could have apologized.
This would be like Peter Parker just not feeling bad that Uncle Ben died.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. So
you want to be like Venom, or do you want to be like Spider-Man? Think about it, Tim.
I just hope
that's a good point. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I just hope the vaguely leftish guy on Tim Pool, I think his name is Time Lord. Maybe that's the Boston basketball player. I can't remember what his name. Moon Lord. I think the Surfs guy name. I hope he's okay, because I think Tim should have create a safe work environment for his employees, and he failed to do so. So I just hope the employees that I care about are safe. And
fair enough. Tim. So Tim, if you're out there, look, there's plenty of precedent within the Marvel Cinematic Universe for you to apologize to me. And so I think it's time. Let's go to the IMs, shall we? Did you put up
that? Did I what?
Should we put up the Blake Masters thing?
I don't know. It's like they're so thirsty for attention that
I know.
I almost kind of want to not to.
Judy Ruliani, I hope you don't catch a cold, Sam. Neck looks very uncovered. Brooklyn Sue, hey, Sam, how's it been trying to schedule Saul's vaccine? Any anti-vaccine rumbling among parents at his school? Not that I'm aware of. In fact, they're going to start offering the vaccine next week in school.
Oh, wow. I thought it had to go with kids that age through doctors.
No. You can get it at CVS, Walgreens, down at City Point.
Oh.
Saul's 8, so that has not been, nope.
Never mind.
But doctors are getting it soon, too. Bourbon Socialist. Sam, do not let your colleagues affect your decision to wear a shirt with no collar. I think you rock that shirt like a goddamn fox. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Thank you. Definitely agree with the MR crew about the notion that Joe Biden and Democratic leadership are losing on purpose as part of some grand scheme is a very dumb analysis. But it is fair to say that there are key Democrats that are too corrupted by money to pursue a winning strategy or pass popular legislation. Of course. Of course. I mean, I think we see at least 2 examples of them. We didn't get into it with Pareene, but he has a theory about cinema, that she's going to switch parties at one point and try and run as an independent. Manchin seems to be very okay with his party languishing and failing as long as he's paid handsomely by fossil fuel industries, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I think there are others that are hiding behind Manchin and Sinema, but the fact that you don't see them, that they don't forefront themselves, is an indication of changes that has happened within the Democratic Party, within the Democratic voting base, and within our media, that they're afraid to. They are afraid to stick their necks out. And that's good, because I think if Manchin and Sinema comes around, these people do not block a bill like this. Maybe they try and get one provision out or something like that. But between the 101 and the 5, Thanos Seder always looking for the end game. Utilitarianism. Halter Top Seder. Flesh. LOL. Banzer Q Team. I bet your numbers will skyrocket today if you dress up like a leather daddy. Take Saul to see My Hero Academia. What is that?
Is it an anime thing, I think?
Oh, check that out. Majority Report wardrobe coordinator. A lot of rompers have collars, and I hear they're quite comfortable. Just putting that out there.
Oh, God, please don't.
Oliver Wendell Holmes. Oh, thank God. Normal fun half. Lately, it's been like inviting your friends over for a lighthearted movie night, cracking open some beers, and then selecting Schindler's List, followed by Requiem for a Dream. Joe from Dayton. Sam, I think you look great, and I don't care what anyone else is saying. Thank you, Joe. Nicole from Buffalo. Catholic Health Mercy Hospital in South Buffalo, and the CWA union workers on strike. They've come to agreement on a contract, and they're going to vote on it soon. The strike might be over soon. Also, I'd like to make the case for abolishing the Senate. Sold. Milton Apathy. Who among us does not have a Maserati? The media let him run away from Trump. The media did not let Trump off the hook in 2020. They nominated a Clinton retread and didn't motivate black female voters. Indeed. Lee Atwater never said he regretted that, by the way. Militant Apathy. Sammy Davis Jr. would like a word. Yeah, fair enough. Left-handed Stranger. Matt's interview with the guy that covered the QAnon Texas stuff was really good and informative. What do you think of the upcoming Texas versus Biden fight?
I think he was talking about Binder. I don't know what Texas versus Biden fight they're discussing.
Me neither.
Jersey Max, what are everyone's thoughts on nuclear power? My cousin was arguing with me the offshore wind farms are pointless and we should be investing more in nuclear. He also has a bunch of say no to wind farm signs. I'm kind of think he's just a NIMBY. He's also a salt life bro, so I think he just doesn't want to deal with the windmills off the Jersey Shore. The wind farms are going to be incredibly helpful. Yeah. B, even if I had no reservations about nuclear power and completely ignored the massive subsidies that they need to get built, massive, enormous, the amount of time that it takes to build these things is just simply takes too long for it to get online.
I mean, it's the same, like...
Huge subsidies. And I would also add one more thing. even if I had no issue with all that, I do not trust corporations
to handle nuclear power.
To handle nuclear power.
Yes. It's weird to me that like a lot of these people who understand corporate malfeasance in the context of oil or ExxonMobil seem to have a lot of faith in nuclear power as a burgeoning industry, and they can say it's a bridge similar to electric vehicles, right? It's a bridge to clean energy, but electric vehicles and the waste that comes off of it wouldn't have devastating consequences.
I may be more.
Way.
I'm not somebody who's an activist for nuclear, but I can see like the benefits to like say where France is currently in terms of their carbon emissions and where we are. And I think like, okay, yeah, I wouldn't trust sort of private utility to do nukes, but I think like the government should do it. And if we had that, and I think that would also create a whole bunch of really good high-paying jobs.
I'm open to that. And because, I mean, I spoke to a guy whose dad developed the GE, I think it was the GE nuclear reactor. And they went with a technology, I can't remember exactly the details, that could also function in subs. And the technology is flawed. He said, like, the design is just flawed. And for whatever reason, they never went off at that design flaw. And I'm just skeptical of it as a bridge thing. I mean, if you were to spend that kind of money and a lot of other stuff, I think you'd get there.
Yeah, exactly. And, yeah,
but certainly he's nibbing the wind power. Peachy Keen, regarding yesterday's talk about Q and people not wanting to believe celebrities are dead, the best quote I've heard is to describe this type of thinking: malevolent gods are better than none. People want to believe that someone somewhere has total control, even if that control is working towards malicious ends. The idea of a chaotic universe where things happen for no reason is far scarier to some than some grand conspiracy. I totally agree. This has been my theory about Alex Jones forever. Modernity is difficult. I mean, really, non-modernity was not so easy either. I mean, like, how are we going to describe this whole thing? Like, why is it raining when we don't want it to? Or why hasn't it rained? Well, we need to develop this idea that someone's controlling everything. But I don't want you to disprove it. So I should also just mention you can't see them. And they're up in the sky and they're controlling things. But then over time, you start to get a little skeptical. And I mean, like the hundreds of thousands of years, maybe, or I should say thousands or hundreds of years, you get a little skeptical about the old man in the sky. So then it's just like people in the Bilderberger group who are controlling everything. And then it's just like, you know, now we're at a collection of powerful people that are visible to them.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to feel like you have no control over, you know, major decisions, things that impact you. And so you come up with the idea that there is a specific being in charge and there is a sort of a way to solve this that is like a silver bullet-y. But that's that. Pierre Pants. Where do we think OBJ will end up? Also, happy birthday, OBJ.
The Rams. Happy birthday, OBJ.
Who's OBJ?
Odell Beckham Jr.
Okay.
You know who that is?
You live in the Giants? Yeah.
He's not on the Giants anymore.
Okay. Well, he was.
He was. I mean,
I don't care about the Giants.
I know, but he was like the biggest star in the league for a while. And the Giants, he covered up Eli Manning being terrible for many years, and it caused him to be injury prone, and now he's paying for it and not on a team right now. It's very sad, but he should go to the Rams, I think.
Betsy DeVos emailed y'all about having Greg Kazar on the show. He's running for Congress, and he's a badass. Yeah, we should do like a roundup of candidates one of these days. Hello, Tushy really does eliminate the bar of entry. Know what I mean? Y'all said it, not me. Enthusiasm high gap. Lefty band teacher. Can we get a birthday shofar for Eugene V. Debs?
Yes.
Bernie, be my dad, please. Happy Friday, crew. Encourage anyone who has Door listeners in their lives to watch Sean on YouTube's latest video entitled Jimmy Dore's Anti-Vaccine Lies. Great breakdowns of how Jimmy distorts articles to present an agenda to his listeners. Great shows this week, and hope everyone has a great weekend left its best. Ooh, Matt, will you find that and send me a link?
I'll take a look.
Thomas in Minneapolis. Sorry for the long-winded and stupid I Am Wednesday. Just felt bleak after the results came in, but the reality is that we just have a long way to go on the left in Minneapolis. That means a lot of losing along the way. Still just at a loss on how to deal with hostile local media and the insane impact they have on older voters. Indeed. Les, your vitriol toward Warren is tiresome, Sam.
What?
I think you might have heard.
Yes, she didn't kiss Bernie's right wing when she thought her. You called her a backstabber. I never called her a backstabber.
When was
That's
that?
us, I think. Sam has never said this.
I've never said that. I think she blew it when she didn't endorse Bernie, and I was really disappointed over the course of the campaign at how poor her retail politics were and her lack of understanding of like where public facing and populist politics were, because I think she misunderestimated and misunderstood a bunch of things. But I was very much supportive of Warren. I mean, Bernie was my first choice, but I never called her a backstabber. It was completely within her choice to try and win the campaign. I just think that she probably had a better shot of being Joe Biden's vice president, frankly, if she had endorsed Bernie Sanders, because then she could have actually come to Biden with something to deliver, which would have been Sanders voters. Les, Sam, why do you have guests? I mean, I would understand if you let them talk. You know what, Les, I'm really actually thinking about is, why do I allow you to listen to this program? You don't seem to listen well, and I don't like your attitude. Les,
Less is more.
I am afraid that I may fire you from the show.
Shadow banned.
No, banned.
Oh.
I don't know how we would go about doing that. I haven't figured out quite the technology yet for that. District Jabroni. Have the Republicans denounced the Virginia election results yet, or are the elections only rigged when Democrats win? Yes, well, I think we know the answer to that. Majority Report data analysis team. Sam, we neglected to tell you that the 5% bump in viewership was only in the 55-plus age demographic. Show ratings actually took a dip in the under 55 age cohort. The wise words of the Wu-Tang Clan, please protect your neck. It is always snowy in Iowa. Sam, I don't know. I know you don't do TYT stuff because of the time issue and you have kids to watch, but you should. Would you ever do a segment of their old school show? Would love to see an episode with you and Ben Mankiewicz or some other Air America alum shooting the shit. I just did Jordan Yule's show, and now I have more time with the afternoon show not there. That's a good time slot for me. So it's never been a.
I think it's also useful because now they're more like open to not having, since due to COVID, I think they kind of changed their policy a bit about
out of studio
guests. Yeah.
Fabucat. McAuliffe doesn't equal Biden. McAuliffe's background is upper middle class. Biden's background is lower middle class. Biden therefore appeals to white working, white working class more. I mean, maybe. Don't underestimate the fact that Youngkin is a native Virginian and introduced himself as such in advertisements. McAuliffe was born and raised in upstate New York. I think there's a lot of factors that went into this, but yes, Florida Femme. I think one of them is also that McAuliffe couldn't knock him for being a Carlisle Group person because McAuliffe is a Carlisle Group person.
Right.
Florida Femme. Anti-Trump isn't enough if the politician acts differently than Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Mike, did you hear they have got 40 countries to stop the use of coal at COP26? Just need Australia, China, India, and the U.S. to sign up. Those are sort of big ones, yeah. Huge ass. Seems like there's already a overwhelming sense among Republicans that Democrats are jamming catastrophic and unprecedented amounts of policy down their throats. Anyways, regardless of reality, Joe inviting Republicans to negotiate doesn't even register to the vast majority. It's crazy.
Donors register it, though.
Sam's greased up calves. Sorry, Emma, but I think the Democrats run a better hurry-up offense than the Giants. New York City might be a Knicks town, but you haven't won a major sport. Okay, that's not nice. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hashtag go Sox, go Bees, go Celts. All right, bing.
Yes,
How can you even call it a sports town anymore? That's a good point.
The last time that the Giants won a playoff game was 10 years ago against the Pats.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Couldn't hear you.
Last time the Giants won a playoff game was 10 years ago against the Pats, and I was there.
Can't hear you.
In Indianapolis.
Sorry.
You might remember.
No, I don't. I'm old. I don't remember anything.
I remember.
Rube Goldberg.
Oh.
Did you guys see the segment on Fox News about Orange Biden? We're in some weird movie.
They really love to do that, to just repeat, cut and paste exactly what was said about Trump and do it against Biden.
Alexandra Ocasio keyboard. Sam, I'm liking the black sweater. You look like the bass player in some early 90s shoegaze band, or maybe just an extra on Seinfeld. Thank you.
Is it a cotton sweater? Is it a wool sweater? What is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is it scratchy or soft?
It's soft.
Okay.
So I think it's cotton.
Okay. Because you can wash the cotton one, right? The wool one you got to dry clean.
Do I need to wash this?
I don't know. I'm just trying
I just wear it once, and that's it.
Okay.
Godcat, there's no empty FM bands in LA. Should I go with AM? Your left-wing Limbaugh? You got the FCC hookup? Oi, time for a fundraiser. I'll send pics. Blame Morris County. All right. Bunker Inspector. Hey, everyone. Can I just say stop pronouncing Glasgow wrong? You don't pronounce the W, like with snow.
Glasgow.
It's pronounced Glasgow. Same with Moscow.
Yeah.
Moscow?
Wow, I've never said Moscow.
Wow.
I mean, that's a little that's hard. That's
Every
a
time
hard
I hear a
ask
North
for New
American
Yorkers.
say it in that stupid way, I want to go pledge allegiance to Al Qaeda. Have a good weekend.
Wow.
Is it Moscow?
I mean, I knew Glasgow, but Moscow is interesting.
I mean, I've never heard Moscow. Moscow.
Moscow is so much funner to say.
Moscow.
Comrade questions. Build back barely. Am I right?
Bare minimum.
Emma's favorite nut. You should see Dune if you haven't. I did see it. It's pretty good.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I watched it the other night.
On your TV?
Yeah.
You gotta see it in theaters.
I ain't going to see it in the theater yet. Not yet. Not yet.
I've only seen 2 movies in theaters since the pandemic, but we wore those masks.
Yeah.
And you have to show your vaccine proof. I don't know.
Turn left to win. Progressives are very poor with prioritization. It would have been a hard negotiation if they had doubled down on 1 or 2 big issues max through the 6 months and make the working class fight along with them, not just in surveys. Sorry to say they're molding themselves to their party pretty well. Pareene superfan. If Sam thinks a bidet is a romantic gift, he definitely likes to eat ass, and I'm here for it. Okay, well,
great.
Appreciate that. Aaron is not cool. Wow, just tried to buy samceder.com and it forwarded me to the Majority Report homepage. That's right. That's right. That's tickets a bargain bin. It's getting through the anti-vax rally. You have to wade through, though. That's tough.
Yeah.
Robert's beef sandwich. Emma needs her new cashew smoke breaks. Apathetic steamroller. I miss frog prank caller. Oh, yeah. Remember that, dude?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the ribbit guy.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
Neat O'Devido. Moderates in the House can deduct the salt from D's nuts. Nick from PA. Pennsylvania Debt Collective member here. Check out the Bucks Cancel Lunch Debt Coalition. I tweeted you about. We're helping cancel 16,000 lunch debt held by 200 students. Free lunch for all. I will check that out. Joe Manchin. AP was good, but I think we need to get a more knowledgeable voice about the VA election. I'd like to hear the thoughts of an old lefty from way back, David Feldman, on this subject. DJ from Syracuse. Does Sam need Brandon to print off YouTube videos? Emma, Al Touch just got traded to the Sabres. Do you think they have a chance?
the Sabres? No, but I mean, look, I care more about Eichel getting out of that situation than the return. Could have got a bigger return if the Pagulas wanted to trade Eichel to New York, but they didn't want him so close to home. Sorry. Bad ownership. Pathetic. Sad.
Yeah.
As hockey, no one really cares about that. People care about that even less than my NFL takes.
Dan the Birdman, is the Discord on Reddit?
No, the Discord is on Discord.
That is a very odd question.
There is a Reddit, but it's unofficial.
Come shower with Crowder. Love the Matthew Film Guy segments. Reminds me of being at my Jewish boomer family get-togethers. Gen X, my ass. Matthew's like, at least, I think he's got to be 10 years younger than me at least. I don't even know if he's at Gen X. Maybe he is. Chucky in L.A. Asked the film guy what the European movie about the guy who gets friend-zoned that he recommended like a year ago was called again. Also, I want to go ask Matthew. Will take your questions on Twitter. I went to vote a few days ago in my district on Long Island. Gross, I know, but I fell asleep after work from 5:30 to 3:30 a.m. just to wake up to go to work again. Our democracy is a sham, even in blue states. Why should I care what happens in this Weimar Republic? Still love the show. When is the left going to be ready to start doing the thing? Spencer Williams. My wife Emily's home recovering from her hysterectomy. Any chance she could get a patented Matt Leck shofar? Wow, that's pretty good. That's
when you're not around to do the soundboard, Matt's been workshopping.
There was a
That's
time
pretty good.
from about age 8 to 12 that I annoyed my family by just trumpeting like basically every song with my mouth. I couldn't.
Wow.
It was like compulsive.
Mikey, you should get a holster to help with the elbow problem. Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
You can wear a holster like Crowder.
I'm trying to normalize elbow problems.
Or you're trying to normalize gun ownership, those guns.
Exactly.
Right.
Hey, Prairie Fire Kowalski. Hey, Sam, Emma, and our crew. The show seems so much more lively and fluid now that you're no longer under the yoke of big...
Are you saying big C word?
Yeah. Why? What?
Big Peacock.
Oh, Big Peacock. Oh, right? Okay, got you.
But without the first.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was from. I had no idea. Like, why is Kowalski talking like this? This is so disturbing. I had no idea. I didn't put that together. Jed Wamba. There's a lot of people who characterize demonstrations against Manchin and Sinema by Sunrise Movement as criminal harassment. My fear is that there will be mass arrests when they needed to keep protests up. Yeah, I don't think that's... Nightmare Blunt Rotation. Just wanted to say thank you to Matthew for his suggestion of the show about the show. Self-indulgent in the best way. It was hard to pull myself away. I'm not sure I know what that's about. The difference in singing between UK and US culture is referred to in the academic definition of folk music. The US, the only big examples I can think of are Happy Birthday and the sports chants. Otherwise, even in that case, music has been commodified in the States. Great observation. It's true. I wonder, I mean, none of the songs I learned were like old songs. They were like rugby songs and they were like bar songs. It was like there's no singing of songs in bars in the U.S.
Yeah, singing's for queers.
You just have the music playing super, super loud.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we had more of that. Like sometimes you see what happens in Europe during like football tournaments, right? And everybody's all together. So it's like, that's cool.
Fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, but we put all of our sports stadiums out in the suburbs, and you go just get in your car right afterwards and drive out. And it's much more atomized society.
Oh, and also if the owner decides that they can't get a good deal in the city, they'll move the team to another city.
Sam, it might help to use some gel pads on your desk or armchair combined with the thing you were talking about. Oh, that's a good idea. Also random, but had a dream where Amy Goodman and David Feldman were my therapists.
Oh.
Amy would always be leaving when I arrived at the office, and Feldman just kept telling me to lean in and know my worth. Matthew Film Guy, I was a superpower, and I am now a hyperpower.
Amy Goodman would be a good therapist.
I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah.
The H-Dub, guess she never heard of Booker T. Washington or Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, right.
It was Mrs. Nixon.
JJ Cool. Hey, Sam, I have to agree with Matt about the credits, and I would even go a little bit further. I can have respect for everyone who worked to put together a show without reading the names of people I don't know. Not going to remember any of those names 5 minutes later anyways.
That's not my take. I disagree with that. I think it's good that you give people recognition. I just don't like you have to stay to see an extra little 2-minute thing.
Marger Tater Cream. Please cover the BBC's article about trans women pressuring cis women into sex. They use Lily Cade as part of their defense of sacred women's spaces. Cade is admitted to assaulting multiple women in bathrooms, and her truly genocidal rants have been unearthed. BBC stands by the article, but had Cade scrubbed from it. Poorly executed, state-funded transphobia.
That's basically what I've seen about it, too.
Ron Paul's neighbor, pertaining to the soccer football comment yesterday, Emma, the term soccer was originally English, but only went away when they perceived it as an Americanism. Stuck-up soccer fans can suck it.
I agree. I mean, it's just
Is that true?
What they say to me, and it's just like, I'll whatever. I'll tweet about football. It's like, the only real football is like, stop calling it football. What am I supposed to call it?
Yeah, what
am I supposed to call it? It's what we call it in America. I don't like go to another country and say, don't call your sport this thing because I don't agree with how it's marketed. Just stop it.
Yeah, but I would ignore those people.
Boston,
I know. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
Boston Bernie Bro, there's still no safe long-term way to store spent nuclear fuel. Solar is by far the most efficient, but capital doesn't want something that runs on a free resource. I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
Well, no, I definitely think the last
Although
part
the problem is
the last part, yeah.
Capitalists will pervert all these technologies because there's a way they like solar because you get around sort of like unions and stuff like that. Like you got to watch them in any. That's why it's just depressing that we're still looking to markets on this shit.
All right, 3 more. Chest hair, Sammy. Biden administration versus Texas is about abortion. Administration is suing Texas. Okay. Bob Carmody. Happy Emma-versary week from the Majority Report YouTube chat family. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Clower says a nation of rugged individuals is not going to sing together in public. And folks, the final I am of the day. Dr. Gus from Florida. Will there be drinks served at the live show? Not sure if I can listen to Sam sober without double speed. Love the show. That's a good question. I think there's going to be drinks.
Gotta be, right?
I would imagine.
Otherwise, I'll bring a 24-pack.
Yeah, bring your own flask. Matt, great job. Double duty this week.
Thank you.
Having to literally
get my steps in.
Those desks were not designed for one person to be working both those workstations. Emma, great job. Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. You made it.
I did.
Folks, see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in.